Yo, Mana Squad, if you like any of the cards you see in today's video, make sure to hit up the affiliate link down below to TCG Player. You can help look up some of your local game stores in the process and help show the channel some love. And you know you got to look good while you play in order to play good. So make sure you hit up our link to Into the AM as well. We have the discount code down in the description below. Look, you got to listen to Kenneth the Heathen, and he always says something about dripping in space and screaming. We don't know what it means, but do what the man says. And last but not least, hit up Heavy Play. Heavy Play is going to have some of the nicest playmats and deck boxes out there. Their magnet system between their deck box and dice trays and playmat is amazing, especially if you're playing at like bars, restaurants, stuff like that. You got to get up and move. There is no better way to keep all your stuff together, and you can show the channel some love in the process. Stay petty.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Command Center, where we like to put our favorite commander, maybe even yours, front and center. And you know we can't do it unless we play those three helpful letters, EDH. What does it stand for today, Hadoken?
It stands for Equipping Deadly Hands. That's right. These hands are rated E for everybody. When we go into this combat sport that we call Magic the Gathering, one of the best things that you can have on your hip is a good equipment. To quote the great poet Clifford Harris, Louis Knapsack is where I hold all the work at.
This is true. Also, probably one of the most efficient sentences Sir Clifford has ever said. Just direct and to the point.
So we about to go through this line and tell everybody there's some of the best equipments that you need to be running in your deck. Who want to go first?
Or don't, because they seem pretty good. So if you just like don't want to do it and want to just play some like jank stuff instead, we're not here to stop you. So like if you just want to play a bunch of draft chaff against me, that's cool. But we'll be bonking you on the head with our good equipment.
I'm here to stop you because friends don't let strangers make bad decisions.
Good life advice. All right, let's jump into this list. So yeah, these are a mix of just like pet cards that we have that we love as equipment, some underutilized equipment. We are, just as like a disclaimer, obviously we're gonna leave out the most blatantly obvious stuff, so we're not going to talk about sort of Feast and Famine and like sort of Fire and Ice and Shadow Spear.
Anything, then no.
Yeah, like Shadow Spear, you know, Hammer and Azan, the stuff that like, okay, yeah, if you were playing equipment, like obviously that's going in, there's no questions. We're gonna try to find some weird stuff that we like to use because it's more fun to bonk your friends on the head when they have to be like squinting and reading the card as they're being hit in the face, which is way more satisfying. So I think last episode Sed started us off. So let's go ahead and have Sed do the same thing.
Exactly.
And kick it off for us.
Yeah. So everyone loves a repeat. So what I want to talk about today, one of the cards that we didn't mention that we weren't going to put on our list, I'm assuming nobody's mentioning like Swiftfoot boots or the okay. Because I have an alternative to Swiftfoot boots. It's called Haunted Cloak. Granted, it's not as cheap. However, it does more and it does work. It's a 3-drop equipment. Equipped creature has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Any green deck that I ever build, this is going in there because it gives the boys Trample and Haste and Vigilance. Come on, can't beat that.
How much is it to equip? So you said 3 to play?
I'm sorry, 1 to equip.
1 to, oh my gosh. So it's just 1 mana different.
Yeah.
It costs 1 more mana.
Taxes.
No, I did not know that card existed. I don't think. I'm just hearing it, and that seems insane because it's like, yeah, you're missing the hexproof, but so many decks you don't really care. Like you're just trying to get the thing, hey, so you can bonk somebody. Like the hexproof's not why it's there.
That's true.
Okay, well, another card in another video we were talking about some stuff that you might kill me out of nowhere with. Adding this to the list of things to keep some sort of interaction up for, so I don't immediately die. All right, Ken, what is your first equipment you got on the list?
So that card was cool, but it's still wrong. Let me give you some better flavor of how to build your decks, okay? What have we learned about people's decks nowadays? That everybody plays utility lands. They play all these extra lands that buff X, Y, and Z. I love it when you do that because guess what I do? I play the Trailblazers boots. Yes, they are a horrible basketball team, but they are also great boots, all right? Trailblazer boots, it gives creatures non-basic land walk. So if you have non-basic lands, I congratulate you because now I'm getting in where I fit in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Also, you mentioned Trailblazers. Just a giant double middle finger to Joe Cronin. Joe Cronin, I can't say what I want to say to you right now, but you'll get what you deserve. But back to the Trailblazers boots. These things are, there's never a game. Okay, I'll scratch that. Outside of playing against Zed, there is never a game where I've sat and someone doesn't have a non-basic land out. Ever. And every once in a while, you're going to be pulling out like a Urborg Volcano or something, something that I didn't see coming, which is still my favorite land name of all time. And yeah, so like every game is literally just, oh yeah, unblockable. Bam, super cheap to do it on an equipment. Yeah, it's really good. And I think it's still a relatively cheap like budget card too.
It's all
you can just
cents.
throw in any deck. That's insane. Yeah. I like it. Well,
I was definitely abusing this card back in the day. And I was, hey, everybody's playing non-basics. I'm gonna just scoot on over there.
And it feels like it just gets better because it feels like even now in monocolored decks, they've created so many. We talked about, we talk about utility lands and stuff like that that are in monocolored decks. I build monocolored decks with like 10 to 15 basics sometimes now because there's so many good just random utility lands that you can throw in. So yeah, that's the boots are going to be. This is the boot that Ken talks about shoving up someone's
derriere.
My first card I want to talk about it's actually, I don't think it's necessarily a good card. So y'all pick two that are actually good. I don't think it's good, but it is very fun, and it's Elbrus the Binding Blade. So Elbrus the Binding Blade is 7 mana to play. So you probably want to run this in a deck that can like reanimate artifacts or find some way to cheat the cost because that's a lot. It's only 1 to equip, and it gives your equipped creature +1/+0. So like obviously a world beater. But the important part, if that creature ever manages to deal combat damage to a player, you unattach Elbrus and transform it into Withingar Unbound. Withingar Unbound is just a giant demon. It's 13/13, flying, intimidate, trample. And whenever any player loses the game, you put 13+1 counters on Withingar. So this is something, especially like an equipment deck, I found myself a lot of the time, like you want to put like a list of fun equipment and you put a bunch of efficient stuff, but there's so many ways to cheat playing cost for equipment or equip costs and all these. This is one just to throw in the pile. And then randomly when your giant Voltron creature, it does combat damage. Oh, by the way, I just ended up with a 13/13. And if someone dies, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. This thing is amazing. It's wonderful.
To make that card work so many times.
It's worked for me. I've managed to play. I play my Flame War deck, my Transformer deck, and basically because there's so many reanimation effects, I've gotten this to flip probably 3 or 4 times. And it's not the easiest, but it's worth it, especially in a deck that's all focused on one creature to just immediately make a giant second threat. It's wonderful. So not super efficient, but if you're looking for some weird stuff to do with equipment, why not summon a giant demon? Now, Sed, what is your second pick?
All right, so this one's about to get nasty because this equipment has a color in it. The color is red. It's called Fiend Lash. Drop it down for 1 in a red, and you equip it for 2 in a red. All right, first of all, the equipped creature gets +2/+0 in reach. That's not the important part because I need you to follow me. That 2 might do something later because we're about to jump down to the next sentence. Whenever equipped creature is dealt damage, it deals damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. This is just, I see so many bad things with this. I see so many, not bad as in like terrible. I mean, like, yeah, terrible for you. Because you could just like enrage, you can just ping, you can just throw a lightning bolt at your own creature. I don't care, whatever. As long as that's a big creature that this is attached to, you can just start doming people over the head with a dump truck.
It's Brash Taunter with extra steps. Get out of here.
Not extra steps, sir. It's Brash Taunter.
With extra steps.
It really is just on an equipment.
It's just Brash Taunter.
You still gotta equip it. It's extra steps.
You have to tap Brash Taunter. Guess for how much mana? 3, 2 in a red.
I stand by what I stand by what I stated. All right, you know what?
I venture to say it's Brash Taunter with fewer steps.
Ooh.
I think we just made some science there.
Ooh. What if you threw this on Brash Taunter?
Okay, that's gross.
That
is gross.
I mean, granted, you'll have to buff up Brash Taunter because he's not that big on his own. But still, that's double the damage from just one instance.
Okay, I need this card right now. Okay, some stuff just came
I've
in my
never
mind.
seen Ken come around so fast.
It's still trash, but I gotta keep face to say it's still trash. But yeah, I just got some ideas in my head, and they're all gross. Speaking of gross, y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? All right.
Maybe.
It's a red and a green, so it's better than yours because it has an extra color. It's called Mage Slayer.
Yes.
Mage Slayer says whenever equipped creature attacks, it deals damage to equal to its powers to defending player. Without even doing combat damage, it automatically smacks you. Let's just say hypothetically I do an infect creature. Let's say hypothetically I throw it on a Galta. Let's just say or on a toxic creature. I can get in and bust you up before you even block. I can kill you before I actually kill you.
All right, not a toxic creature, but an infect creature.
Same difference.
Got to have infect.
Toxic is infect with less steps.
Toxic
I
is.
think it has actually extra steps in that case.
Yeah.
There are. Also, fun fact: Mage Slayer is Kresh's sword.
Who is Crush?
Crush the blood braid.
That didn't help with anything. Like, I hate when people do. You say it the whole day like it's supposed to help.
It's like
I played a Kresh deck for like 3 years.
You think I pay attention to your commanders? I just be trying to kill you.
I feel so just ignored, unseen. Let me move on to my next one. Sorry, Kresh.
So here's the
Tarrian Soul.
But before you get started, here's the secret. Ken doesn't remember cards or planeswalkers or whatever. He just remembers victims. He remembers your face, your soul.
To quote the great I don't even want to call her. To quote Taylor Swift, I have a blank space and I'll write your name. Like, the death note, because I'm going to kill you.
Oh no! Don't send the Swifties. Look, we're not afraid of saying much on here, but that is a territory I will not delve into.
The only Swiftie I get down with is the Rick and Morty Swiftie. All right,
Swiftie.
Get Swiftie. You put your butt on the floor.
I'm still saying nothing. I'm gonna move on to my next pick, which is a card from Lost Caverns, and it's Tarrian Soul Cleaver. I think we talked about this card before in a separate episode of me misreading cards, which will either have just released or will release soon. And this is a 1-mana equipment for equip 2. Equip creature gets vigilance. And this next line of text is insane. Whenever any artifact or creature is put into any graveyard from the battlefield, you put a +1 counter on the equip creature.
Similar to the vampire stake, right?
Similar, except it's just anybody's stuff. So if you have
same thing. Anytime a creature goes to the graveyard, it gets a 1/1 counter. But if a vampire, if the equipped creature is a vampire, it gets two.
It gets 2. So similar, except this also includes artifacts. So like in a world where treasures are just everywhere, if some treasure person is just going off at the table, they're just making your creature gigantic. So basically, you put this on, creatures die. Treasures are going to the graveyard or any sort of artifact, because there's so many like artifact value like synergies now. Your creature's just going to get massive. We were just talking about the disrespect towards Kresh from Ken. You put this in a Kresh deck, in a deck built around flinging creatures and stuff. If someone decides to try to go off on their turn and treasure this, storm this, do this, sacrifice this, you literally just fling something at their face and just say, stop, bad, go. And then they're just dead. Like, this card is insane. And the fact that it's 3 mana, I'm sorry, it's like $1 right now. I'm like shocked by that. I picked up a couple copies already, but this is just one that's just, it doesn't even necessarily need it. It reminds me of Blackblade Reforged in a sense, where like Blackblade Reforged is the famous like every Decks of Ultron deck card, because you just play it and you're gonna do commander damage someone. I feel like in today's commander, this can have the same effect, where you don't even need to be the one sacrificing stuff. Just bam, put it on a creature, and within a couple turns, it's gonna be a commander damage threat right away. So love that card.
Okay, there's a creature out there, and I can't think of it right now, but it's one of the creatures when it enters, you fabricate 3. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, you deal damage equal to the creature's power.
Marionette Master.
There we go.
Yes. Tarrian Soul Cleaver on a Marionette Master would be, it's game over. Like, if you get that out with some stacking synergies, it's like the game's basically going to end right there if someone doesn't have a response.
You might want to put G-Eazy on the hook, because that's a wrap. I don't even know who that is.
You went with G Easy.
I was trying to say Young Jeezy, but I was like,
Yes, you put Young Jeezy on the track.
I've never gotten G-Eazy and Young Jeezy confused before. I see the name difference. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of felt sad when it came out of my mouth too. I was like, ew. Like I felt gross, like eating black licorice. But
all right. Well, let's move on to our last pick. Because like honestly, going into this video, as far as like equipment choices, you might have had nothing, but now you got a whole lot of everything because we got so many fun picks for you. And let's just round it out with our final selection.
Yeah, I hope that no one chose. Well, maybe you did, but there's an equipment that's been dear to my soul for years, and that's been Sunforger. I'm not going to talk about this one, but I feel like a lot of people should know about Sunforger. Just tutor for an instant, red white instant for 4 mana or less. For that cost, sign me up, coach. So play more Sunforger. Make yourselves proud. Make you and your mama proud. All right, next. Card I really want to talk about. This came out of the legendary Kamigawa. Champions of Kamigawa. So this is the champions equipment right here. But this is Kusari-gama. This is 3 to play and also 3 to equip. However, there's the 2 lines of text, and we're going to ignore the first one because the first one is just a buff for 1, but we're not going to do that. The only thing that matters in the spirit of throwing damage around with these equipments that we talked about, a lot of them so far. Whatever equipped creature deals damage to a blocking creature, Kusari-gama deals that much damage to each other creature defending player controls. So you can either double up your experience as far as like maybe throwing a lure, some type of lure effect on a big creature you have, and or maybe not lure, maybe like a threaten effect to make one creature at least block it. But as long as that creature is big enough, you're doing damage to the entire board that defending player controls. There are ways to make creatures block.
Well, also it's like a weird, almost pseudo unblockable in the sense it's like, yeah, you can block, but it's going to destroy everything you love and hold dear to you.
Yeah, that's the mind game.
Sometimes I almost prefer like, you could just give something unblockable, but I almost prefer the like mental game that the opponent has to play in that case. It's, technically it's less efficient or less good, but like I want to see them squirm. So if they got to sit there and make a decision on like, oh, do I lose all of my creatures or I just get punched in the face? So much more satisfying than you telling them which one. It's like now you chose to let all your creatures die, or you chose to get punched in the face.
Yeah, they're going to let it come through a few times. I've seen it happen.
Oh, for sure. That is solid. That's something I need to sneak in. I feel like that's a fun one to get the brain flowing. Can you match that? Because honestly, I think not that I'm like keeping score, but I think Sed has got you on this episode based on something. I mean, that's the first time that one of the equipment we talked about today was the first time I've ever seen you actually enjoy a recommendation we made ever.
That is a lie.
Like not even able to hide it.
Rebuke you, Satan. All right. But yeah, I can save the episode. First of all, it's 2-0 right now because Mage Slayer is busted. Anyway, the card to destroy this is called the Deathrender. Okay, forget the buff. We don't even. You know what? We don't care about the buffs.
Yeah, it gives a 2/2/2/2.
It gives it a lolly. Call that a popsicle. Whenever equipped creature dies, you put a creature from your hand to the battlefield.
That I will admit, this card was originally on my list. I just felt like other things were better than it.
Yeah, so it's cool to be wrong. I mean, some people think the peanut butter tastes better crunchy. I don't know, but people can be wrong. But Deathrender not only cheats in creatures, not only can allow you to do like flicker graveyard shenanigans, persist shenanigans. Like this can get real busted real quick. All I'm saying is this.
Yeah.
I'm going to attach Steve to it. I'm going to sack Steve. I'm going to put a Galta into play. To quote the great Yugi of all, your move.
You're on your quotes today. I will say, I think we need to start a book of poetry by Kenneth the Heathen, because there's some life quotes to be. Yeah, I never heard of Deathrender. I'm going to be completely honest. I hadn't seen it, but it's basically like a better sneak attack if you're doing it right. Yeah, and it's only 2 to equip, so you can bounce that around once it's out and just cause havoc. Again, something I have to keep out and look out for before I die to it. So my last pick is going to be one that I had for a while, couldn't find a deck for, and then when I started playing it, realized like this seems obnoxious. And it's called Mask of the Schemer. So Mask of the Schemer is 2 and a blue, 4 in equipment, equip 2. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, it connives X, where X is the amount of damage dealt. And connive, for anybody that forgets, because there's 7,000 mechanics since then, you draw that many cards, discard that many cards, and then you get a +1 counter for each non-land card discarded. So this is the type of, if you have any deck with it, especially for Voltron strategies and stuff, the first, if you just equip this by itself, let's say you got like a 3/3. Oh, you're drawing 3, discarding 3, putting 3 +1 counters. Doesn't seem like much. The way this grows like exponentially, you can deck yourself very easily with this card. Because once you swing, let's say you have double strike, let's say you have other buffs. If you swing for 6 or 7, you're drawing 7, discarding, and then all of a sudden it's bigger, and it gets so out of hand so fast, and you get to see so much of your deck. When I put this in, I had put it into my Vadrock deck thinking, oh, it's a way I can fill the graveyard. I need to get my instants and sorceries in the graveyard. Cool. It's just going to let me pick and choose what I need. The deck has a lot of weird pieces in it. Never did I think it was going to be a Voltron finisher. And instead of just being selection, it's literally turned into the best card in the deck of just, oh, if I get this equipped, you're probably dead in like 2 turns. It is absurd. It's also like 12 cents. So it's one of those cards that definitely doesn't hurt you to test out. But yeah, you can put in Voltron decks. You can put it in any deck that has a commander with evasion. If you're just playing a flyer, that it's the selection is so good for such a small mana investment. So yeah, try this thing out. Just beware, if you have any large creatures, you might actually deck yourself. And I mean, honestly, that's the best way to go. If you're drawing your whole deck and decking yourself with a giant creature punching people, it's a combat damage trigger. So you can kill someone and then die after the card draw. And I feel like that is the real best way to go out.
A wise person once said, this chocolate tastes like boo-boo.
That ain't chocolate, baby.
That ain't chocolate.
But yeah, so there you go. New way that you can use some of these equipments that we're talking about here. New ways to think about them and expand your horizons. And not just stick to, I mean, of course, you can play your Swords ofs and your Swiftfoot Booties and your Lightning Greaves if we're still doing Shroud. I don't know. Everything's Ward these days. But yeah, there are plenty of equipment to go around. I think you should all check them out using our affiliate link, TCG Player, down in the description below. Help yourself out, help out your LGS, and you can walk into your next game store or your LGS looking fly with these equipments as well.
And if you're going to walk in there fly, you better dress fly while you're doing it. That's why we going into the AM. That's why you're going to wake up fresh into the AM, baby. Remember, in space, they can't hear you scream, but they can see that drip.
Yeah. And my closing thought when you mentioned equipment, I think one of the coolest things now is, for a long time, I felt like Voltron decks could be a bit expensive to build because there were so few like really good equipment options that you needed to run the Swords of. Like every equipment deck ran the Swords of. You needed to run all of these like very powerful specific things. You could throw together like 12 equipments for a total of $2 now, and it's just gonna like destroy people. Like there's so many efficient pointed equipment that you can use. So yeah, I think the stuff we did for this video, I think really just you could build the most busted Voltron deck ever from Draft Chaff, it feels like, because there's so many things that we didn't even put on the list. We were talking about, we might even have to do a part 2 because there's so many things that didn't make the list that are still busted.